Hello there. It has been some time, huh? I guess I got caught up in some time-consuming projects and have not been busy on this channel for a while. And unfortunately, I doubt that will change in the coming months. However, since my last video, there has been news that has been exciting for me and many others. The sudden announcement of Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity in early September. Personally, I'm really looking forward to this game, as I've long wanted a game with the more war-focused gameplay of the Warriors franchise that tells a story that might fit into the larger Zelda narrative. That is also what I wanted to discuss today, why Age of Calamity is different, and what it might mean for Zelda going forward. For decades, a certain adage has always defined the development of the various Zelda games. Gameplay first, story second. A game in the Zelda series is always first developed around a gameplay concept or a certain mechanic, after which a story is written, and often rewritten during development, to integrate this gameplay. This is an intentional decision. A series producer, Eiji Aonuma, has gone on record to say that developing games with story ideas first leads to impurities. He also cites that keeping this from happening with the development of Zelda games as the reason for keeping his famous, or perhaps infamous, Zelda timeline document a strict secret from the fans and most of his staff. However, this seems to be changing with Age of Calamity. Unlike the first Hyrule Warriors, wherein Koei Tecmo approached Nintendo, Aonuma approached Tecmo to tell the story of the Great Calamity that occurred a century before The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. He thought the gameplay of Tecmo's Warriors series would match well with this story. It seems he really is thinking of the story first and foremost here, considering that the Zelda game with the warrior style of gameplay already exists on the Switch, in the form of Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition. This may be Aonuma further taking a sledgehammer to Zelda's conventions, which started somewhat with the Link Between Worlds and was continued in Breath of the Wild, since both games challenged the idea that Zelda games needed to be linear ventures. This may be Aonuma shifting his focus to the story conventions of the series. This is also the first time in the series that a backstory from a different game is the setting of a new game, discounting the explicit sequel Link Between Worlds and the messy case that surrounds Ocarina of Time and A Link to the Past's imprisoning war, the latter being not the same events according to the timelines released in Hyrule Historia and the Zelda Encyclopedia, and the stories themselves also not matching up, but this is a topic for another day. I believe that this can set an exciting precedent, as like many others I found the story of Breath of the Wild somewhat lacking. This gives Nintendo and Koei a real opportunity to expand on the story, such as by showing the past versions of Impa, Pura and Robbie, and introducing new elements to the plot, like the small Guardian, or the cloaked Gerudo who was shown in the most recent trailer. Perhaps the Guardian will be tied to the seeming new abilities of the Sheikah Slate. The Gerudo may be the court fortune teller long speculated to have orchestrated the rise of Calamity Ganon. There is also potential for the wider series here in its ending, since we know the story of the Great Calamity has a rather tragic end. In the trailers we see what seems to be the end of the 4 champions at the hands of the 4 Blight Ganons. Maybe in the future we can see similar tragic elements, or more explicitly dark events in Zelda stories? Perhaps it could even inspire other series to do the same down the road. Personally, I'd love to see an adaptation of the War of the 3 Heroes from Fire Emblem's Delius games in this style of game. However, there is a flip side to all of this as well. Parts of the trailers and gameplay have left me unsure about how faithful Age of Calamity will be to Breath of the Wild's story. The biggest thing here are the Sheikah Towers that were said to be underground 100 years ago, and were only found by chance afterwards, yet feature prominently in Age of Calamity. Sheikah Slate also seems to function quite differently than it did in Breath of the Wild, though the developers hinted that there is a reason for this. In my mind, the canonicity of this game becomes doubtful if it deviates from Breath of the Wild too much, since it is a side game and Zelda does not often do big retcons, especially in directly related games. Either way, we shall see when the game comes out, and I'm pretty stoked to play it myself. That will be all. See you next time.